Something about the way Ben Shephard's voice shifted that morning told you this wasn't going to be one of their usual easy laughs. There was a tightness, almost a reluctance, before the words even landed. And when they did, you could feel the studio atmosphere tilt. Kate Garraway sitting right beside him. Susanna Reid already sensing the storm coming. And Ben, after nearly 2 decades of silence, finally admitting he had once seen his longtime friend and co-host walking through her own kitchen topless. It wasn't a story told for shock. It was told the way people share the memories that have lived quietly in the back of their minds for years, half hoping they might stay buried. He described arriving at her townhouse on his bike, chaining it up outside, the basement kitchen visible from street level. Kate had been napping. She walked in. He froze. Completely. Transfixed, he said. Not in any dramatic sense, but in that pure, mortifying human panic where the body simply refuses to move because moving might make the situation real. He didn't call out. He didn't laugh. He carefully undid the bike lock and cycled away in what he later called a hot sweat, then invented some excuse about being tied up when she asked where he was. And for 20 years that moment stayed locked between them, known only to him. What made the revelation land so heavily wasn't the detail itself. It was the weight of the silence that had surrounded it. Viewers watching at home seemed to recognize the particular kind of awkwardness that only exists between people who already feel like family. Many online remarked that it felt less like a scandal and more like the kind of story siblings eventually tell each other after years of pretending it never happened. Kate herself later said she was flabbergasted. They were like brother and sister, she pointed out. The idea that he had carried that image for so long without ever saying a word left her stunned, and, characteristically, she found the humor in it almost immediately. There is something deeply revealing about the way the exchange played out on air. Susanna's teasing. Kate's laughter. Ben's still slightly awkward delivery even after all this time. The chemistry between Ben and Kate has always rested on a particular kind of ease, the sort that only comes from knowing someone across so many chapters of life. They had already shared years of early mornings, personal milestones, professional pressure, and the quiet support that television rarely shows. This story didn't threaten that bond. If anything, it underlined how solid it already was. He could finally say it out loud because he trusted the relationship to hold it. Some audiences watching seemed to focus on the sheer length of the secret. 20 years is a long time to carry an ordinary, human moment of embarrassment. Others appeared more interested in the body language in the studio that day. The way Kate leaned in. The way Ben still seemed to brace himself slightly before finishing the story. The small, shared glances that suggested this confession had already been rehearsed privately between them, and that the live telling was simply the public version of a conversation that had already happened. It is easy to forget, when presenters share these kinds of stories, how carefully they usually protect the softer edges of their real friendships. Breakfast television thrives on the appearance of closeness, but genuine closeness is rarer. What struck many viewers was how little the revelation actually changed the temperature between them. There was no lasting discomfort. No forced recovery. Just the familiar rhythm of two people who have already seen each other through far more complicated chapters than one awkward afternoon outside a basement kitchen. Perhaps that is why the moment lingered with people longer than a simple embarrassing anecdote usually would. It wasn't really about what Ben had seen. It was about the decision he made in the seconds that followed, and then the quiet decision he kept making for 2 decades afterwards. To protect her dignity. To protect the friendship. To carry the awkwardness alone rather than risk making her feel exposed. In the end, when the story finally came out, it seemed to do the opposite of damaging anything. It reminded viewers of something television often tries to manufacture but rarely achieves this cleanly. The sense that two people can know each other thoroughly, including the small, ridiculous, human moments, and still choose to keep showing up for each other every morning. And maybe that is what stayed with people after the cameras stopped. Not the detail of the story itself, but the quiet proof that some working relationships on screen are built on something sturdier than chemistry and schedules. Sometimes they are built on the things left unsaid for years, until the day it finally feels safe enough to say them.